people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. An Instagram story posted by WBC featherweight champion Sky Nicolson in reference to the ongoing fiasco at these Olympics. A caption that reads, "You know what's an actual threat to women's sports? The fact that too frequently we see female athletes' success be attributed to her being a man."
Too frequently?
Too fast? A man. Too muscular? A man.
I don't know what they mean by too often. I don't remember too many Olympics quite like these.
Physical prowess isn't only present in one gender, yet we've seen time and time again a woman who demonstrates too much athleticism to be questioned if she is indeed a woman, whether by public opinion or by institutional sex verification testing that has been viewed as not only as human rights violations, but inaccurate.
The quote is from Pat Manuel, and Sky posted it to her Instagram stories. It's clear that Sky is sympathetic towards the plight of the two athletes at the center of this controversy.
And all of its nuances. The one thing I've taken away from what Sky has had to say about it is that she is not against their continued participation. Amy Broadhurst, yet another decorated amateur, stated, "I beat them both 5-0, both in the Olympic final." Hard one to swallow that.
Just seems like a flex for them.
More than addressing the greater issue at hand, it just seems to me like Sky Nicolson and Amy Broadhurst are patting themselves on the back that, well, we fought these fighters before and we beat these fighters before as amateurs.
The way it comes off as a flex.
More than addressing the issue at hand, the issue that some have with this, that if these categories are not clearly defined, at least categories that up until recently many thought were specific to biological women.
If there are not clear definitions and provisions to ensure that these women's spaces stay for women.
That's the concern that people are expressing. That is the concern that people have. And that redefining the category, in a manner of speaking, eliminates the need for one.
Because if you're going to allow this, then why even have one?
So on August 2nd, Amy said, "This is the last I'm going to speak on this situation because it's a crazy situation. The IBA released a statement that two boxers failed a gender test over a year ago. That's all well and good, but where are the results?"
Well, they're not at liberty to talk about them because Emaine K. Leaf and Lin Yuting lawyered up.
They haven't been published yet, so people are believing what's been said. Bear in mind, IBA were banned from having anything to do with the Olympics, so what a brilliant time for them to kick up a storm during the Olympic Games.
When were they supposed to kick up a storm? When were they supposed to start talking about it? They banned those fighters last year, but the OIC let them fight this one.
I do not agree with male versus female. I never will because it's wrong. But the abuse this person has received in the last 24 hours, with any real facts or proof, is wrong.
If it's all about facts and proof, and the IBA is not to be trusted, then why didn't the OIC do a cheek swab of their own?
Please keep in mind, if your child was going through something like this, what would you do?
You could apply that same logic to the athletes that are against this, the same ones that fought in these games.
Wait for facts, wait for the results to become known, and then you make your opinion. But stop the bullying.
Well, I'm sorry, Amy, but the facts are being suppressed by the two fighters at the center of this controversy and their lawyers.
You're saying wait for the results. What results?
The IOC didn't conduct a test of their own.
And where Sky Nicolson and Amy Broadhurst might be okay with these two fighters' continued participation, you know who's not okay with their continued participation? Former champion Mary McGee, where some may be asking for compassion and understanding for these two athletes. There are other women fighters out there, a former champion in this one.
She's not okay with this. She wants clarity.
To a lot of other people. And given the gravity of the situation, no, I don't think that's too much to ask.
Because of the optics, because of how it looks, while the IOC and a few others want you to pretend.
There's nothing at all odd about this, and there's nothing to see here.
Nothing unusual.
The OIC's explanation that they looked at the fighters' passports and that was enough to qualify them in these games. The IBA accuses them of being biologically male. It's the IOC's job
To clarify,
to address the elephant in the room and get the facts out there.
whatever they are.
Seems more people are focused on this being a feel-good story for these two athletes at the center of this controversy, as if it's just about these two athletes or if it's just about these Olympic Games. What happens now, moving forward? If you delineate,
You blur the line.
then what exactly defines this category and who competes within it? And are the people competing within it, the majority of them, the women, are they okay with that? Are they?
Can it be put to a vote?
Because I see a lot of spectators in what is this spectator sport that are not all right with this. They're not okay. Many of them are confused. They don't know exactly what is going on, the nuances of the situation. It's just a lot of red herring and straw man arguments intended to gaslight the boxing community into ignoring the elephant in the room to convince them that there's really nothing to see here. There's nothing peculiar about all of this.
The IBA said that there were concerns raised by fighters and coaches about these two athletes at the center of this controversy.
The IBA said that's why they looked into it. In 2022, in 2023, they tested them.
They're saying those are biological males. That's what they're saying. Now, if what you're saying is that we can't trust them, then do a test of your own.
Unless what you want people to believe is that there is no way of separating biological males from biological females. There is no way the science can establish clear definitions for who exactly is allowed to compete within this category.
In terms of sport, that if, as far as the IOC is concerned, there really is no way to separate biological males from biological females, then why even have categories at all?
Would seem that those outraged individuals have a very clear idea of who they think should be allowed to compete within this category, whereas it's the IOC that are a bit more ambiguous.
So here we are.
It's up to the athletes themselves, man.
It is.
Them and their teams, whether or not they're okay with this. If another situation like this one should arise, are those games they even want to fight in? Do they want to compete under these circumstances, however unique they are?
Though if it happens again and it keeps happening, well, it'll hardly seem unique. Then it'll just seem deliberate.
It's really up to them, because I don't think the IOC has been all that helpful in providing clarity.
Quelling the controversy.
Their stance has done more to push viewers away from these Olympic Games. They don't look at them through the same lens anymore.
A lot of people that are pissed off, they don't want to watch it, they don't want to support it.
The two athletes at the center of the controversy are guaranteed to medal. They are. Though whether or not that's actually good for the category and for the games, we'll see. In men's junior middleweight news, boxing insider Rick Glaser slammed reports from veteran boxing scribe Kevin Ioli saying, talking negatively about the financials associated with Turkey Al-Sheikh's Riyadh season pay-per-view event during the best fighter in the world, Terence Crawford. Ioli knows nothing about boxing financials and doesn't understand the gravity and worldwide effect this show had. Ioli's tentacles are limited to solely, at best, North America. This event was big everywhere, including the boxing-rich UK. Kevin Ioli needs to stick to the sport of boxing, but stay out of the business end. I will always cheer on by supporting the excellency for what he's doing in boxing, and Terence for what he's already accomplished in a now legendary, all-time great career. Best regards and future success to both Turkey Al-Sheikh and Terence Crawford. Both clearly deserve that admiration.
What's this all about?
In my previous video, we talked about a preliminary report from veteran boxing scribe Kevin Ioli, who suggested that the numbers for the Terence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov fight weren't all that good, and it resulted in a loss of approximately $10 million.
I have my reservations, my skepticism, because a fight, a pay-per-view, distributed across that many platforms in that many regions of the world via ESPN, DAZN, and pay-per-view.com, I find it a little hard to believe that you could get verifiable information on a pay-per-view that took place just a few days ago, just a few days later, on so many platforms.
It is a little hard for me to believe. This was before I came across these comments from Rick. Rick, who says, "For all of you geniuses and know-it-alls, Turkey al-Sheikh is not going to run out of money. Riyadh season efforts are backed by the general fund of a country. Hashtag Saudi Arabia. They can do whatever they'd like to do. They're a country. They print their own money. It's not a person. It's not a hedge fund. It's a country that's doing all these great boxing events. This is unprecedented in boxing. How come Kevin Ioli didn't explain it properly in his article?
What's to explain?
That boxing is just a fraction of what the Saudis are trying to do for their region of the world in promoting Riyadh season in all these different corners of the globe, using not just boxing, but other sports in an effort to promote Riyadh season and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as the crowned jewel of entertainment in a variety of different ways. That if you think the Saudis are spending all this money on boxing, just boxing,
The same way that a Fox or a Showtime would, or a promotional outfit within the world of boxing, that's not necessarily what they're doing.
Now, I can't tell you here and now whether or not Crawford versus Madrimov was a success or a flop, as it happened just a few days ago and it had more than one distributor spread across a very wide region. Thus, any preliminary reports coming out about viewing figures need to be questioned.
Their legitimacy.
Though to prove a point, I'll go with the worst case scenario, just to prove a point, just for the sake of conversation. Let's say that the event did lose 10 million. Let's just say that. Let's just say that it flopped. It didn't do what perhaps they thought it would do.
What's 10 million to trillionaires?
Those are the kind of people you're dealing with. Those are the kind of people you're talking about. What is $10 million to not millionaires and not billionaires, trillionaires?
Do you understand that?
It's a drop in the bucket to them and a fly speck on the back of a camel's ass in the greater scheme of things and what they're trying to do for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where these bozos in boxing can't see the forest through the trees. Rick actually gets it.
Rick knows.
You think the Saudis are gonna run out of money? Tell you something, you're not dealing with some failed music mogul like Al Heyman. Some wannabe.
This ain't no crackerjack outfit like the PBC. This is bigger, much bigger than that. And their vision is much bigger than just what's going on in boxing. You can't see that.
Boxing is just a part of it. Boxing and sports is just a part of it.
Bigger picture.
But if what you're telling yourself is that because Crawford versus Madrimov might not have done so good, the Saudis are gonna run out of money? Better wake up and smell the beheadings, my friend. These are powerful people.
Power.
You don't understand power because you've never had it.
Bitch.
You don't even have it now, and you never will.
Power.
So how could a piece of shit like you understand what's going on? Better just know your role and shut your mouth, because this is way above your pay grade, and that's why it goes over your head.
Oh my god, they lost $10 million. The Saudis lost $10 million. What are they gonna do?
Canelo not wanting to fight Benavidez and outpricing himself. Even Turkey knows that Canelo is afraid of Benavidez. I'm trying to think of an excuse for Canelo of why he doesn't want to fight Benavidez. $200 million, you're crazy. You are crazy. In other words, you don't want to fight him. And it's sad because boxing is on the rise. Boxing is on the rise because all these big fights are happening, right? And everybody's excited. And if Canelo fights Benavidez, guess what? That's the Super Bowl of boxing. Boxing will just thrive and just keep going up and up and up and up. So Canelo, come on, what's up, dude? Give us the fight. Don't give us bad fights. Give us good fights.
So once again, Oscar De La Hoya is using some fighter to discredit and disparage Canelo Alvarez.
You're gonna find people out there that agree with him. There are certainly people out there that think Canelo is avoiding David Benavidez. And I am acknowledging that those people are out there.
Though by now I think you would have to be very naive to think that this is really about David Benavidez and that fight for Oscar. For Oscar, that's not what this is really about. This is him being mad that Canelo Alvarez left Golden Boy Promotions something like 4 years ago. Don't forget, he was also picking Jaime Munguia to beat Canelo Alvarez, then Terence Crawford.
He has since gone back on that.
And of course, he's siding with David Benavidez. Anyone who stands in opposition of Canelo, Oscar's going to take their side. Because for Oscar, it's not about the fight, and it's not about David. It's that he's upset. 4 years later, he's still angry that Canelo Alvarez left Golden Boy.
That's what it's really about for him. I ain't stupid.
In this interview seen here, I just played for you guys, conducted by Sean Zattel, in another segment of Oscar De La Hoya's Clap Back Thursdays, who's he talking about?
Canelo.
I think Oscar De La Hoya finally found someone that he hates more than Floyd Mayweather, because those of you that are old enough to remember, everything Oscar is doing now to Canelo, he used to do to Floyd.
Don't you remember? All the energy that he now gives Canelo Alvarez, that used to be energy that he gave to Floyd and disparaging Floyd, talking down Floyd. Now, he regularly talks down Canelo.
And why? Because 4 years ago, he decided to leave Golden Boy Promotions. He'd outgrown your promotional outfit. Here's a perspective. There have been many fighters that left Matchroom Boxing, that left Top Rank. Joshua Buatsi, Lawrence Okoli, both left Matchroom for Boxer. But you don't see Eddie Hearn losing any sleep about it, speaking on it all that much, the way that Oscar speaks on Canelo. Top Rank, Bob Arum.
Manny Pacquiao, their prized stallion, left Top Rank and Bob Arum for the PBC. But you didn't see Bob spending the time on Manny that Oscar spends on Canelo.
In more recent years, Puerto Rican sensation Edgar Berlanga, he left Top Rank for Matchroom, but you don't see Bob spending the time on Edgar that Oscar spends on Canelo.
You don't. You just don't. That fighters change their decorum and leave promotional outfits all the time, but none of them have had the adverse reaction that Oscar has had to Canelo leaving him.
Now, maybe it's because Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy had a lot more riding on that fighter than those other promotional outfits had riding on those fighters. That Golden Boy Promotions hasn't ever been quite the same since Canelo Alvarez left.
Oscar's a very resentful person. He holds a grudge with both hands.
And even if you might agree that Canelo is swerving David Benavidez, if that's how you feel, I think you would have to be very naive to think that's what this is all about for Oscar. For Oscar, it's just another way to take the piss out of Canelo Alvarez. It's just another way to take a shot at him.
David Benavidez or somebody else, he will find whatever instrument he needs to discredit Canelo Alvarez.
I would go as far as saying that if by some chance Canelo Alvarez fought David and he beat him, that wouldn't stop Oscar, because for Oscar, that's really not what this is about.
How could it be? You were just telling the world that your fighter, Jaime Munguia, was going to beat him. Jaime Munguia was going to unseat him. And when it doesn't happen, you just pour that energy into somebody else. You poured it into Crawford, now you're pouring it back into David.
Because you're vindictive and you're catty. His candor to me comes off as disingenuous because I know it's not about what he's saying.
You're just mad he left.
That's why you're mad at him. That's why you're mad at Eddie. That's why you're mad at Eddie Hearn.
What did Eddie ever do to you?
Nothing really. Nothing to Oscar. But because he went into business with Canelo Alvarez immediately after Canelo left Golden Boy, that's why Oscar's resentful towards him. You're hearing him talk about Canelo and Benavidez when all I hear is a crybaby who hasn't stopped crying for 4 years.
Hasn't stopped moaning about it.
Just a sourpuss. He's a crybaby. He's a crybaby after Floyd Mayweather beat him, like he's a crybaby now that Canelo Alvarez left him. He's just a crybaby.
Change his diaper.